My assistant's bringing the notes that I left upstairs. There they are. Thank you. My lovely assistant. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about a few things. I know everybody wants to know about the MTH thing. I don't know why everyone wants to ask me about it, because I don't work for MTH, and you know, it's not like I have some special knowledge that everyone, you know, nobody else has. But we will talk about that. I'm gonna save that until a little later. That's the teaser, you see. And then we'll get to that. So the first thing I want to do is first thing I want to do is some announcements and updates to let you know what's going on these days. The last video that I did was earlier this week, and that was running some standard gauge trains up in the living room slash kitchen slash dining room, and that video got a pretty good response, so thanks to everybody who watched that. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can find it on my channel. It's a pretty cool video. That video features all the standard gauge trains that are in that video are made by MTH, and it's kind of a coincidence. I didn't make that video because of the MTH news. I was already making the video when the news came through about MTH, so it just sort of happened to line up perfectly that I would have a video with all these MTH tinplate trains in it right after the news. I see a bunch of people asking questions. I will answer some questions, but if you ask them now, I'm probably not going to see them, so there's no sense asking them right now. I'll have a section where I do answer some questions, and you can ask those questions at that point. Otherwise, you're just sort of wasting keystrokes on your keyboard, because I'm probably not going to see it. So thanks to everybody for watching the standard gauge video. It got a really good response, which is cool. And someone said something to me on that video that sort of rang true. Was sort of captured something that I hadn't really thought about, and which is that you know, sometimes these standard gauge and tinplate trains get criticized because they're not realistic. You know, they're very caricature, you know, artistic, license taken sort of works of art, not really meant to be accurate models. And sometimes a lot of people, you know, in this day and age, people want realism, and they don't really care for that stuff. However, someone pointed out that they made a comment on the video. They said it's nice to take a break from the realism every once in a while, you know, and that kind of made me think that, you know, now more than ever, I think with things that have happened this year in 2020, I think it makes a lot of sense that it's nice to run something that is not based in reality, that's a little more whimsical and requires a little bit more imagination and stuff. So I think given things that have happened this year and how weird 2020 has been, I think it sort of maybe that's why so many people are watching the video, because normally the standard gauge, the tinplate videos don't get as many views as the other stuff, but it's gotten a big response, and I have to wonder if that's one of the reasons, is that it's kind of escapist in a way. So kind of interesting. So there's that. Upcoming product reviews. I haven't put out a product review in a few weeks, and so people have been asking, when's the next product review? And that brings up another subject, which I'll talk about in a second. But I am filming a bunch of product reviews. The problem is they're not done yet. The one I've been filming forever is the Lionel pre-war inspired state set, which is right behind me, as a matter of fact. Let me turn the camera around and you'll see it. You can see just the very top of it, that green car. That's the pre-war inspired state set. I've been filming the review on it for like 2 months now. It's taking forever, and it's not that it's especially long. It's just that it's taken me a while to sort of just get it done because I've been working on other stuff, and that set in particular requires a lot of historical background and stuff like that, and it requires more time and research and stuff like that, and that's why it's taking a while. I'm also filming a review for a Lionel Canadian National, or is it Canadian Pacific? Canadian National F7 ABBA set, passenger set. That's really cool. That'll be out at some point in the future. And then I've got a couple Menards reviews coming. There's the Menards fire station, which is really cool. It's got an animated helicopter on it. I mean, how cool is that? And then there's also the Menards Tide laundry detergent factory. So those two are in the works. And then I also just got a couple boxes from Atlas the other day with some brand new Monon passenger cars in them that are beautiful. And I'll be doing a video on those as well. There's a video, actually I've got it right here. There's a video coming up about this. This came from Lionel, and it's a new soundboard for my original Vision Line Challenger. Cost me $240 for this sound card. Quite expensive. And so I'm going to do a video showing, I'm going to do a video showing how to replace the sound card. Just in case anybody's interested, and then after that, I'll be able to run the old Vision Line Challenger with all the sounds that it should have. And one reason that I wanted to get this was because I've got the two new Challengers, and I'd like to do a video where I run all three Challengers at the same time, back to back to back. But I can't do that unless I fix my original Challenger and the sound card inside. Now I've talked about this before, but I should probably mention it again, because if I don't, people will get carried away. But anytime I talk about replacing a part in a locomotive, that inevitably causes a rash of people to say, "Oh, they should build those things better. They shouldn't have to pay to replace that. That's awful. How dare they do that? How dare it break," and stuff like that. Well, in this case, it was 100% my fault. I had the locomotive open, and I was working on it, and doing something not related to the sound system at all, just messing around with it basically, and I accidentally shorted out the engine and fried the soundboard, and it was a $240 mistake, and so it's been sitting without that sound card for a while, and but because I want to do the video with all three Challengers, I finally called up Lionel and ordered the sound card. So here it is. Took 3 weeks, because when I called them, the pandemic was happening, and so they said it would be 3 or 4 weeks before they would get it out. But they did get it out, and I got it about a week or so ago, and that'll be a neat video to show you how to do that. It's the front sound card. It's not the main sound card that's in the tender. It's the smaller sound card that's in the front of the engine, so that you have the stereo sounds. $240 for that card. So that was a mistake. Sometimes when when you open up your trains and you monkey around with them, you risk breaking things sometimes. And even me, I'm not the world's expert on fixing things and working on stuff, and sometimes I screw up too, and I made a $240 screw up. Just for an instant, I crossed the wrong wires, and psst, and you hear the dreaded smell of burning electronics that tells you that, oh gosh, this is going to cost me. So that's the story of the Challenger soundboard. So that'll be a neat video to do. And then I've got another video coming up that's a restoration video for an old locomotive from 1946. I haven't started filming that yet, but I probably will start filming it in the next week or so. And then there's lots of other smaller videos that pop up from time to time, which kind of brings up another topic that it seems like anytime I publish a video, you know, people want to say, when are you going to do a product review? How come you're not doing this kind of video? And how come you're not doing that kind of video? And when are you going to do this video? And my answers, you know, I usually don't answer those because to answer it in text form, typing it would probably take about 8 paragraphs worth of explanation. But the short answer is that if I'm not putting out a video that you want to see, you know, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I put out the videos when they're done, and there's 2 kinds of videos that I generally do, and I think most YouTube creators feel this way. There's videos that I do because I know that people want to see them. So product reviews fall into that category. I don't do the product reviews because I necessarily enjoy reviewing the engine. I enjoy running the engine, but talking about it for 15 minutes is not you know, my favorite thing in the world to do. But I do the product reviews for you because I know people want to see those engines and read about them and see them in action and all that stuff. And then there's videos that I do because I want to do them, because they're actually sort of things that I'm passionate about. So when I'm doing, you know, I've done a few videos recently about old power supplies, old transformers. That's something that I'm passionate about, and I enjoy doing those videos. And so you have to balance that in sometimes. Sometimes it's about doing the stuff that people want to see, and sometimes it's about doing stuff that you want to do, because if you do too much of one or the other, it doesn't end well. You know, if all I'm doing is videos that other people want to see, eventually I'd get kind of burned out, and I wouldn't want to do it anymore. And so it gives you a little balance when you can do stuff that you want to do, and then I can come back and say, okay, now I'll do a product review, and then I'll go back and do something that I want to do. So that's kind of what governs what videos come out and when they come out, and also it's just about when they're finished. So right now, for example, there's about 4 videos that are in various stages of completion right now, and which one is finished first just depends on which one gets finished first. So there's really, you know, there's no favoritism or anything like that, or things like I'm not going to do any product reviews anymore or anything like that. It's just what's finished first, and also balancing that with what I want to do versus what you guys want me to do. So I hope that makes sense, and doesn't seem too selfish or conceited or something like that. But and I've heard other YouTube creators say that too, that it's very much, you know, about some of the stuff you want to do and some of the stuff your viewers want you to do, and sometimes when I do a video that I want to do, I do it knowing that I'm going to take a hit. I do it knowing that fewer people are going to watch it. So when I do, you know, a video about an old transformer, I know that fewer people are going to like it, but I like it, and it gets me revved up and gets me excited about the hobby, and gets me in a really good place so that I can do other reviews that will be more popular. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. New arrivals. Next week I'm going to be another video in progress. Next weekend I'm going to be going. I think next weekend I'll be going down to Legacy Station to pick up some new Lionel items that have arrived. And these I'm kind of excited about. There's an Alaska set that's coming in. It's a pair of Alaska F7s, and then I think 6 passenger cars, 6 of the 21-inch passenger cars. So that should be exciting. I don't have anything in my collection that's Alaska Railroad. I might have one freight car, maybe, but I don't have any locomotives or anything that are Alaska Railroad, and so I thought it would be nice to expand into that, and so that's going to be fun. The passenger cars have already arrived. But I didn't see any sense of going over there just to pick up passenger cars without an engine. But the engines should be in by next week, and I'll go down there and pick them up, and I'll film a video going down there, and you'll be able to see those. The other things that have come in are also a pair of F7s, and these are a custom run that was done by Legacy Station. They're Central of Georgia F7s from Lionel, and those are really nice looking. They're, you know, in the Central of Georgia paint scheme, and those will be exciting to pick up as well. And of course, you know, once I get them and get them back here, I will eventually film reviews on them so that you can see them. So that should be cool. And then the last part of this section of the show is layout progress. So, and of course that camera reset. So I'm going to show you the only part of the layout I've worked on in the last few weeks is the area where there's some buildings, and I've been hooking up some buildings and wiring up some buildings. So let me switch cameras and I'll show you that. I had it all planned for a smooth transition, and then the camera went ahead and logged itself out, so hang on a second. There it is. And it's upside down. What are you eating over there? All right, so let's switch the camera over to camera 2. There we go. So there's the area I've been working on. It may not look like I've done a lot, but actually I have done a lot over there. There's 2 buildings that are now wired up. The Csx Trains Legacy Station building is now wired up, and the Menards Dollar Store building is wired up. I'm going to turn them on. It's kind of funny because the Menards store is so brightly lit that it makes it look like the Legacy Station Csx Train store is not lit at all, but when in fact it is. So hang on. Oops. Wrong switch. Okay. So yeah, there it is. And you can see it's the dollar store building is incredibly bright. I reviewed that building a few months ago, a little while ago, and it's got a lot of LEDs on it, and it is insanely bright. It's so bright I've actually thought about taking out a few LEDs because it is so darn bright. I mean, the train store, Csx Trains building is lit, but you can barely tell because of the dollar store. It's pretty funny. Now, another thing I did is underneath the dollar store, I cut a new access tunnel to allow me access to the interior of the mountain, because that spot on the layout is kind of a hard place to get to if something derails inside the mountain. So so let me go ahead and show you that. I'm going to lift up the building and I'll show you there's a new little access hatch that just allows me to get in there with a hand and fix anything that might have derailed. So hang on. So there it is. I think the camera's moving around a little bit, but let me get it steady. But there's the access hatch that allows me to get down into the tunnel in the lower level so that I can get derailed trains. So it's not pretty. It doesn't need to be. It's under a building, but it really helped. I had to get a jigsaw in there and create all sorts of mess, but now it actually works. And I'll show you. I'll put the hatch back on and put the building back on, and you won't be able to see it. Let's see. And there we go. So yeah, there it is, the secret hatch. Now, of course, there's a lot of plywood visible right now, but that'll be covered up by a parking lot at some point soon. So ignore the plywood that you see, and that's the new hatch, the new access hatch to get it to the lower level. So okay, let me get back to the camera. Okay. All right, so that's really the only layout progress that I've made in the last few weeks. There's some other stuff that I'm working on, but it's not done yet. I'm doing some asphalt work around the diesel shop. I'm finishing the scenery around the power plant. And I'm also installing a couple new buildings in the Colorado room, but those are not complete yet. Probably the next time I do a video, I'll be able to show you, or I'll probably just show you in the next layout update video, which will probably be in the next month or so. We'll see how it goes. All right, so next topic. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to talk about the MTH thing now, because I know that's on everyone's mind. I'm not sure why everyone's been asking me about it as if I have some sort of secret insight into it, but I really don't. But I will speak about it for a few minutes, just to give my 2 cents worth, if that's worth anything. It's worth 2 cents. For those of you who don't know, and I can't imagine anybody doesn't know, MTH announced, or Mike Wolf announced, that he's going to retire next year, and the company is closing, and that, of course, sent people into a panic, and it really upset me. I would hate to see MTH not be here anymore. They've had such a big impact on the hobby. So, I was really upset about that too. It kind of depressed me for a couple days, to be honest. But here's the thing, here's the thing. I'm gonna say a few things, and this is not necessarily in any order, any particular order. First of all, Mike Wolf he's in his 60s now, and he wants to retire, and that's certainly his decision. He's worked hard, and he deserves it. Whether or not MTH continues, I'm not sure what. I think he just wants to get out of it. From what I can tell, he's just done and wants to retire. I think some of that is motivated by the fact that the hobby is always in a state of decline. The number of people getting into this hobby is always declining, and so there's only so much money that train manufacturers can make in this hobby, and I think he knows that. It's been happening for the last 20 years. I mean, O-Gauge peaked probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it's sort of been declining ever since, because there's just most of the people who are into the hobby are older, and a lot of those people are, quite frankly, dying off. And as they die, there's nobody to replace them, and that's just the facts. I think that might change in the future. I think one thing that they're not taking into account is YouTube and the effect that it has, and that although right now there's a lot of model railroad fans that are not in a position where they can buy trains on their own, eventually they'll grow up and they'll have jobs, I hope, and be able to, have some disposable income to spend on trains. So I think there might be a delayed rise in O gauge, maybe in another 10 or 20 years, when the kids who are 10 years old now are 30 years old or 40 years old, and able to revisit the hobby and get all those trains they could never afford when they were younger. So I don't think all hope is lost for the hobby, but it definitely is a hobby where there's not boatloads of money to be made, and so I think that was part of Mike Wolf's decision to just go ahead and call it quits and retire. So, the other, but then, intertwined with that, there's my own opinions of that. I think MTH could have done a better job of capturing more sales in recent years. I think MTH, their trains are extremely well made. The quality control is great. Excellent detailing. The models themselves are excellent. Where they've sort of fallen behind is in the sounds and the features, and that's where Lionel has, quite honestly, beaten their pants off, in my opinion, because Lionel continues to innovate over the years, and because of that, their Lionel customers have a motivation to buy more of their trains as the years progress. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. The very first MTH DCS equipped engine that I ever bought was a Norfolk Southern -9 that I bought in 2005. If you bought a brand new MTH -9 right now in 2020, there is no difference in the features. They are exactly the same. Yes, one has PS2 and one has PS3, but feature-wise, there's no difference. Sound-wise, there's no difference. And that is something that, on the one hand, it gives them a lot of consistency. I've always said that MTH is incredibly consistent. The problem is, I think that they've been a little too consistent, if there's such a thing. It's consistency to the point of almost boredom, where it's like, when I get that purple box from MTH, I know exactly what's in the box. There are no surprises anymore. If someone's buying their first MTH model, yeah, they're going to love it. But for someone like me, who's really invested in the hobby, who has bought hundreds of MTH locomotives, I really don't have a strong incentive to buy a new MTH locomotive, because it doesn't have anything new on it. The only new feature they've done in the last 20 years that bounces to the top of my head is the smoking whistle on the big boy, and that was just in response to Lionel. And they didn't put the smoking whistle on any other models that I know of. So, from an innovation standpoint, they were really stagnating, and I'm sure there's a reason for that. I'm sure that the folks at MTH would say, look, we can't afford that. We can't spend that much money on innovation, and that's fine. I get that, but the fact is that if I bought an MTH engine in 2005, there's no reason for me to sell it and get a new one in 2020, whereas with Lionel, there is. A Lionel SD70 made in 2004 is way different from one made in 2020. The sounds are different. The sounds are better. The features are better. They keep on adding things. A Lionel steam locomotive in 2020 is way better than one made in 2005. And so for that reason, that's why I often sell my older trains. You know, every year I sell a few of my older Lionel engines so I can buy new ones. And that's how you keep your customers coming back to be repeat customers when they say, hey, I bought a big boy back in 2005, but boy, this new one is way cooler. I'm going to sell that old one and get this new one. You know, that's just my opinion on it. You know, again, I'm sure there are reasons behind it. I'm not going to sit here and say that MTH hasn't had reasons for doing that stuff. I'm sure they had very good reasons, financial reasons, for not doing that. But at the same time, you can't deny that has cost, in my opinion, has cost them a little bit of repeat business over the years because of that. Now, granted, there's not a lot of hobbyists like me who have bought hundreds of MTH engines, so I'm probably in the minority. You know, for most people who are only going to buy 1, 2, 3 engines, I guess there's no problem with that. But again, in my opinion, it's about keeping people excited about new models coming out. And with Lionel, every few years they generate a lot of excitement when a Vision Line model comes out. Everybody gets excited. Everybody gets pumped up. With MTH, when was the last time people got really pumped up about an MTH locomotive coming out? I don't recall any time in recent years where I was just super excited about an MTH engine coming out. As much as I love them, and as much as dependable and well built and well detailed as they are, the excitement really hasn't been there for quite a while. And so, I would tend to think that maybe that had some effect. I don't know. Again, the hobby is shrinking. I'm sure the accountants at MTH would probably differ with me and say, look, the math shows that we just can't do this because there's not a market for it. I don't know, but just my layman's, a perspective from me, from the outside looking in. I hope that makes sense. And it's not meant to disparage MTH at all. It's just meant as just an observation. And from that perspective, I wasn't too surprised to hear that, they might be closing. Now, that being the case, here's the thing about the news with MTH. Mike Wolf's announcement was made less than a week ago. The situation is still developing. The situation is very much in motion. And so I think it's way too early for people to jump the gun and say, oh, they're going away completely. And that's not true. We've already seen this week that their technology apparently is going to carry on as a separate company. I also have to believe that they're going to continue making models. And I'm basing this on a few things I've heard behind the scenes, but I have to believe there's so much tooling. They have so much tooling. MTH, the amount of tooling they have is just ridiculous. And I just can't perceive that not being used by someone. And my personal belief, I think that the people who are remaining with the newly formed MTH, I think they're going to continue making stuff. It may not be in the large amounts that old MTH did, but I have to think and believe that they're going to continue making some stuff on a limited basis. It may be some custom runs. It may be, requested stuff that gets requested, minimal runs, maybe more in the style of a third rail sort of quantities, where they're not mass producing it, but they're making, a steady stream of high quality models. But getting back to what I said, I think it's too early to jump the gun and assume anything. It's still very new. and it's very much developing. I'm sure the people that are remaining with MTH are very active in trying to see what they can do to move the company forward. And so it should be interesting to see what happens. And in a way, so it may end up being a good thing, because as getting back to what I was saying about, the last years of MTH have been sort of stagnant, in my opinion. They've kind of been on cruise control, not really innovating very much. Maybe if some new people come in and take over and steer the company in a new direction, we might get some innovations in DCS. We might get a real, a better quilling whistle. We might get some other really cool features to compete with Lionel. So in the end, this may be a good thing, and some good may come out of it. But it's just too early to know. And the only thing we can really do is just wait and see. That's my official recommendation about the whole MTH thing, is just wait and see, be patient and see what happens. And worst case scenario, the tooling would end up in somebody else's hands, either Lionel or Atlas or maybe Bachmann or something like that, and it'll get made somewhere else. But there is so much tooling and so much potential there, and so much, I would think there's still a lot of value in the tooling that they have. So I would not be surprised if the current MTH guys continue making models, at least on a limited basis, going forward. It should be exciting to see what happens. Anyway, so I hope that answers everybody's questions. I hope I didn't piss off anybody in the process, but that's just my own observations about the whole thing. I would, like I said before, the news really upset me. I would hate to see MTH go away. They've been so influential to the hobby. It's always good to have competition, and it's good for Lionel to have competition. And so it would really break my heart if they went away completely. But it looks like that's not going to happen. They're going to be around in some form or fashion. So all we have to do is just wait and see what form that takes, and see where it goes. So I'm going to do some Q&A real quick, and then we'll run some trains. And in the spirit of MTH, I'm going to run one of my favorite MTH engines today, along with some MTH freight cars, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The first question, somebody asked me, what products are you going to buy from MTH before they close? That's a very good question. When I first heard the news of the closing, I kind of had this panic reaction, where I said, gosh, I wish I had the money to buy that company. Boy, that would be fun. If I won the lottery or something, that'd be a fun thing to do. But, and then my second reaction was, oh my gosh, I better buy some stuff before it's gone. But that panic has kind of faded a bit. But there is some stuff that I do want to order from the new catalog. Some of the stuff is stuff that I've wanted for years, but I've never gotten around. I haven't just gotten around to ordering yet. So let me pull up the MTH catalog just for a second, and I will tell you guys what I am planning on ordering. Let's see here. 2020 Volume 2. So there's a couple things that come to mind. I don't even have to look at the catalog to tell you, but I'll pull them up anyway. One of them is it's a Rail King item, and it's the Aerotrain, the GM Aerotrain. I've always wanted to get a model of it, and for some reason I've just never pulled the trigger on it. And it's in the 2020 catalog. I'm gonna go ahead and get it. It's not that expensive. Relatively speaking, it's $459. and they've got it in the New York Central, UP, Rock Island, and Pensy. I don't know which road name to get. What do you guys think? Should I just get the Pensy? I'll probably just get the Pensy. So there's their Aerotrain. I think I'm going to get, now I don't want to get any people riled up too much, but I might get the Trump train that they're making, just because it's the last one they're going to make. I might get the Trump train, so we'll see about that. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to talk about my political affiliations at all, because my political beliefs are very mixed. Let's see here. So there's the 440 American looks cool, but since I'm getting the Lionel Transcontinental set, I'm not going to get that. So I might get another 44-ton switcher, because I've always liked the one I already have. So I might get another road name. I might get a couple I might get a GP38. And I already have the turbo. And then there's the P5A box cab. So the definites for me from the new catalog are the P5A box cab and the Aerotrain. The maybes are the Trump train, the GP38, and what was it? Maybe some freight cars. I don't know. I got plenty of freight cars. And then maybe a 44-tonner. So those are the ones that I'm thinking of. Now there's some older MTH engines that I'd also like to get. Most of them are like box cab electrics, like the BB1s and stuff like that. So I'd like to pick those up eventually too. If MTH does continue making engines, I've sort of put my vote in for a Southern DL109. They did a DL109 in Southern livery back in 2001 or 2002, and they haven't done it since, and I've always wanted that, and so I would very much like them to do a Southern DL109. I would get that definitely. So that's the stuff I'm thinking about getting from the new catalog. Aerotrain, the P5A box cab, and then maybe the GP38, maybe a 44-tonner. And I think that's it from the new catalog. And then, like I said, there's a handful of other stuff from previous years that I would like to get. And that's that. I'm going to take another couple of questions, and then I'll run this train. And then after that, we'll call it a day. So ask your questions now, because I'm looking at the question thing. Someone says you're going to buy a Biden train too. Probably not. Not that I don't. Again, me buying the Trump train has nothing to do with the politics. It has to do with the fact that Trump is just a character. and just for historical history's sake, I think it's just it's a funny thing to get. Normally I wouldn't. Normally I don't buy any sort of political, stuff. But the Trump train's pretty funny, so I might get that. Someone says get the Pennsylvania Aerotrain. Let's see here. The MTH 4141. I never got either of those. Someone's talking about the George W. Bush SD70, I think it was, that Lionel and MTH made. I didn't get either of those. I know a lot of people did. I didn't see any particular reason to get one. So let's see here. Am I worried Lionel's quality will go down with no main competition? No, I don't think so. I think Lionel is going to keep doing what they're doing. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think their quality is going to change one way or another. Maybe it'll go up. Who knows? Let's see. What's another question? So let's see here. If you're asking me to run a specific engine today, don't, because I've already picked what I'm going to run. So don't worry about that. Someone keeps asking me what's my opinion on CSX models. I think the models are fine. I'm not the biggest CSX fan in the world. I don't, because not that I don't, I mean, I just don't think their paint scheme is particularly attractive. But the models are fine. You know, they're all the same. Have I heard of Norm Charbonneau? Yeah. I've watched a lot of videos, several videos on Norm's layout. He's a really cool guy. I'd like to meet him at some point. I've never met him. Although maybe I did. Maybe I met him at York one time. I can't remember. But if I did, it was very briefly. But I'd like to know him. Norm's got some pretty cool stuff going on. What is your favorite MTH Premier trains that you have in your collection? Well, okay, so the one that I'm going to run today is probably one of my favorites. I don't know if I would. It's it's hard to pick my favorite, but the one that I'm going to run in just a couple minutes is one of my favorites. I'll talk about that. I like the Norfolk Southern Business Train is one of my favorites. The DMIR Yellowstone is one of my favorites. The first MTH steam engine that I ever bought is a New York Central Mohawk, and that's one of my favorites, although right now it is not working correctly. I need to fix it or send it in to get fixed. And then there's also the Norfolk Southern -9 that I bought in 2005, which is special to me because it was the first MTH engine that I ever bought. That's not working right now either. The lighting board is not working right. It needs a new lighting board. I'm going to have to fix that too. The Coors train is certainly one of the most interesting MTH train sets ever made. I love that thing. It's one of my favorite sets overall. The Aerotrain is really cool. It's not the most fun set to run. It's kind of boring to run. It doesn't make a lot of exciting sounds or anything, but it is very interesting. I think that's it. The Dreyfuss, the New York Central Dreyfuss is really cool. I mean, I like all MTH stuff. I've always said, people always ask me what is, they would always say, what's better, MTH? What do you like better, MTH or Lionel? And the truth is that I like them both for different reasons. And that's why it would really sadden me if MTH went away entirely, because I really like the stuff they do. It's different than Lionel. It's not better. It's just different. And they each have their strengths and weaknesses, as I've said many, many times. With Lionel, their strength is their innovation. Their Lionel sounds are the best in the industry, hands down. You cannot beat Lionel sounds. The speakers they use are just I mean, with a Lionel diesel, you can feel the vibration in the table. You put your hand on the table next to the engine, and you can feel the vibration in the table. That's how much rumble there is from those Lionel engines. So Lionel has always had the superior sounds. and they've also always been great at innovation and features. They always have the coolest features, the coolest smoke features, sound features, everything. Just in terms of innovation and sound, Lionel is the clear winner there. MTH, on the other hand, their sounds are not quite as good. I should clarify that. The sounds, MTH sounds, the sounds themselves, the sound files are excellent. They're very prototypical, they're realistic, they're great. The problem with MTH sounds is it's a question of execution. The speaker systems are not as good as Lionel. So the sounds that come out of MTH engines tend to sound a little more tinny. They don't have quite as much bass as Lionel. If you could hook up a subwoofer or something inside an MTH engine and combine a quality speaker and amplification system with their sound files, then you'd really have something. And who knows, maybe the new MTH will do that. I hope they do. Maybe they will take their existing sound files and put a good sound system in the engine. I mean, you'd really have something. If they could do that, I think they would give Lionel a serious run for their money. But anyway, so the MTH, the sounds are not quite as good. The innovative features are not there like Lionel. However, where MTH excels is detail, attention to detail, accuracy, and quality control and reliability. So MTH builds their models are super consistent. They run well all the time. They don't have quality control issues as much. The construction's good. The details are always very accurate and prototypical. So that's where MTH excels, is in reliability and realism. I would give the upper hand to MTH. In terms of sound and innovation, I would give that to Lionel, and that's why I like having them both in the sort of O-gauge universe. It's nice having that balance where you have each place, there's competition and they're kind of feeding off each other, and each one has their pros and their cons, things they're good at and things they're not so good at. I mean, it's kind of like, comparing, I always use automobiles, but it's kind of like if you were comparing, a Honda to a Toyota. Neither one of those are bad cars. They're both great cars, but they each have things they do good and things they don't do so well. And that's what makes it nice, is that you have that choice. And if you're looking for, if all you care about is reliability and attention to detail, go with MTH. If you really want innovative features and superior sounds, go with Lionel. And that's the nice thing about it. Next question. A couple more questions, then I'm going to run a couple trains, and then we'll be done. Let's see here. Have you heard of the Pensy Q2? Yeah, I've heard of it. I have heard of it, yes. Did Lionel or MTH ever make a high-end O-scale DD40X? Yes, they both did. And I have both. I have an MTH model and a Lionel model. I tend to like the Lionel model better because it has better sounds, and the paint job is more of a matte finish, whereas on the MTH model is an older model, and it has sort of a gloss finish to it. And I tend to like the Lionel one better, but they're both excellent models. What's your favorite big boy model? Well, that's a rhetorical question almost. I mean, you can't beat the Vision Line big boy. I mean, that's what I was talking about. I mean, Lionel, in terms of innovation, they're so, and they've always been that way ever since the company was founded in 1900. Lionel has always been an innovator. Now, sometimes that innovation comes at the price of reliability, because if you're always innovating and changing things, obviously that that invites issues, that invites problems. But in terms of innovation, they can't be beat. And so the Lionel Vision Line Big Boy wins over the MTH Big Boy any day. Although the MTH Big Boy is a fine model, and also the MTH Big Boy is half the price of the of the Vision Line Big Boy. So, and that's another area that MTH excels in, is affordability. You get MTH has always given you the most bang for your buck. So if you're on a budget, I would say buy MTH. If you're looking for the coolest features, buy Lionel. But the MTH Big Boy, I mean, for its price, is a fantastic locomotive. Nothing wrong with it at all. Nothing wrong. Not a thing wrong with it. It's always kind of unfair to compare a Vision Line engine to a non-Vision Line engine. You know, people will say, you know, compare the Vision Line GG1 to the MTH GG1, and it's like, that's not a fair comparison. I mean, the MTH GG1 is a third of the price of the Vision Line GG1, as it should be, and it's not fair to compare them, because it's kind of like comparing a Ferrari to a Honda Accord. You know, I mean, it's two different things. Do I have a Climax locomotive? No, I do not have a Climax locomotive. I want one. That's another MTH engine that I'd like to get, because I think they did a Climax some years ago, and I'd like to get one of those before it's all said and done. What is my least favorite locomotive in real life? I don't know. One that's not working. Let's see here. I'll do one more. Let's see here. Which NS Heritage unit is my #1 favorite? Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, they're all identical on the inside. It's just a paint job. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Savannah and Atlanta, just because I grew up in Atlanta, so I'd probably pick that one. I love MTH-HO. MTH-HO is great. I've run several MTH-HO engines, and they are fantastic. Everything MTH makes is great. MTH has never made anything that was not good, in my opinion. All of their stuff is good. I think, you know, if MTH was to go away entirely, I'm going to say this. I'll tell you what. Is it I'll tell you what, or I'll tell you something? I'll tell you what. If MTH went away entirely, the thing that I would miss the most actually would be their tinplate trains, their standard gauge and O gauge tinplate trains. And the reason for that is because nobody else is going to be making those. You know, I mean, I guess Lionel could get the tooling and start making them, but they wouldn't be as good as MTH. MTH standard gauge and O gauge tinplate trains are just marvelous. They're beautiful. They're some of my favorite things in the whole world. I mean, and if I had the money, I would get more of it. I do want to get more of it in the future, while I can, because it's so beautiful. It's so incredible. Their standard gauge, their tinplate trains. Regardless of whether it's the original tinplate traditions or when they had Lionel Corporate Tinplate, when they had the license with Lionel, you know, they're just incredible. It was sad to see the license expire with Lionel, because having their tinplate trains with the Lionel name and come in the Lionel box was incredible, and that will be missed. But that's what I would miss most of all. And to be honest, that was my first main concern with MTH going away. As I said, you know, what's going to happen to all that tinplate tooling, you know, because it's not super popular. You know, tinplate is not you know, if O gauge is declining, tinplate is in the grave, you know, and there's only so many people that like tinplate models. And And so that was my biggest fear, was what's going to happen to all that tinplate tooling, because it's so amazing. It's just, I think they're the most amazing trains ever is tinplate pre-war stuff. If I had the real estate in my house, I would have a tinplate layout for sure. I would have a standard gauge layout, and have some O gauge on there too, because it's one of my favorite things. But it's not very popular. There's not a lot of people that get it, and so I worry about what would happen to that tooling. I'm sure it's in some factory over in China somewhere, and I would hope that somebody, either the new MTH or some other company, would take it up and keep the flame going, because that stuff is just so incredible. So that's what I'll tell you what on is the tinplate stuff. Tinplate is the Dracula of model trains. Yeah, I mean it's very, very obscure nowadays. A lot of people don't like it, and honestly, one of the reasons I like to do videos running standard gauge trains and tinplate trains sometimes is to try to get younger people into it. I mean, that's the most satisfying. I mean, of all the things I do with my videos and all the comments that I get from viewers about how they like the videos, the one that makes me the happiest is when I get a comment from a young viewer watching those standard gauge and O gauge tinplate trains, those pre-war style trains, and they say, "Wow, this is really cool." That really makes me feel good when you can get a young person into tinplate. I mean, that's really something. And for you younger guys out there, I would encourage you to get into tinplate. I guarantee once you get into it, you'll be hooked. It's incredible stuff. The only downside about tinplate is that O-scale trains are expensive, and standard gauge makes O-scale look like a bargain bin train. Standard gauge trains are very expensive, much more expensive than their O gauge counterparts. I mean, I've got a standard gauge state set, and I think it was, for the engine and 5 passenger cars, I want to say it was well over over $2,500, probably close to $3,000. I mean, they're expensive. They're worth it, but they're expensive. So it's not, it'd be cool if they could somehow get the price down, but again, since it's such a niche hobby, it's really hard to do that. They're just expensive to make, and one of the reasons they're so expensive is because there's a lot of hand labor that goes into it. You can't really mechanize a lot of the stuff that goes into making a tinplate train. A lot of it has to be done by hand, and whether it's American hands or Chinese hands, it's expensive. Anytime you're manufacturing something, and the people in the factories have to use their hands, that makes it way more expensive. All right, last question, then I'm going to run a train for you guys. So let me see if I can see one more question. See, like this guy. This guy has gotten into tinplate, and he's only 16. That's awesome. Trainmaster 04. That's what we need, is 16-year-olds into tinplate. So let me... Are you getting more NS Heritage diesels? I'd like to at some point. It's not super high on my priorities right now, just because when it comes down to it, it's just a paint scheme, and if I'm you're basically paying $500, $500 or $600 for a paint scheme. So I'd like to, but it's not high on the list right now. All right, last question. Bring out Chessie. Oh, we need to bring out Chessie. Is standard gauge better than bigger than G gauge? I think G gauge is a little bit bigger than standard gauge, but standard gauge is pretty darn close. It's big, and that's one of the reasons that it is not. That's one of the many reasons why it faded out, and that's the reason why Lionel did not bring it back after World War II, was because they're huge and they take up a lot of space, and you know, after World War II, really after, you know, starting in the 1930s, and so the average size of the American home started getting smaller. People started living in smaller houses and apartments. They didn't have big parlors to run standard gauge trains, and so that's why Lionel transitioned from standard gauge to O gauge in a large part because of the need for less real estate with O gauge. And of course, that's why HO became even more popular, because with HO, you need even less real estate. You can set up HO in a bedroom. You really can't do much with O gauge in a bedroom, but with HO or N, you can. All right, so I'll answer this last question. How did you get into Tinplate? How did I get into Tinplate? I don't know. I really don't know. I can't remember. I probably saw it on the shelf over at Legacy Station at some point long ago, and slowly got into it then. But I don't remember the exact initiating event that got me into it. I watched a lot of videos of it. You know, I have a lot of videos of you know, best, you know, greatest train layouts and stuff, and there's with DM Books and Video. What is it? I can't remember now. But with their TM Books and Video, they did a series on Tinplate, on a series of DVDs on Tinplate layouts, and that really helped cement it for me. And overall, just once I held it and I had it in my hand, that was just that was really when I was like, man, this stuff is cool. So, all right, so now we're going to run a train because we're getting over an hour now, and I do have other stuff I need to do today, and so. I'm looking at my assistant and saying, yes, we'll do other stuff. So, do you want to go get Chessie?
Chessie's sleeping in the window.
It's okay. You can go grab him. He loves coming down here. It's his favorite place. So I'm going to set up the other camera. I'm going to turn this camera around so you can see. So I'm going to run an MTH train. And, oh, by the way, this is the new color of Eric's Train shirts. This is an olive green. It's brand new, and they're on my store right now. If you go to ericstrains.com/store, you can get these olive green shirts. But anyway, so I wanted to run an MTH train today, and I thought about, you know, what engine would I like to run, you know, and so when it comes to the MTH engines that I have, I can think of no better engine than what you're about to see, which is the Triplex. I think it's one of MTH's best engines overall, and it's certainly one of my favorite, if not my favorite, MTH engine. And one of the reasons for that is because nobody else makes it. Lionel does not make a triplex. Oh, Chessie. So here's Chessie. There he is. He just woke up from a nap. Oh. Oh. So we'll put him on the layout and let him walk around for a minute. He's probably pretty groggy. He was sleeping in the sunshine. There he is. So we're going to run the triplex, and behind all the cars on the train are made by MTH. 7 of them are MTH York cars that I got from the York train meet. And then the other ones are just random MTH cars that I put on the end. So this is a pure MTH train. So we'll go ahead and fire it up. I'm going to get the second camera in position. Where's the... Put this one over here. All right, let's go ahead and fire up the triplex. Now, whenever I run the triplex, I have to turn on my smoke, my air cleaners, because the triplex, MTH engines, when they have one smoke unit, make a ton of smoke. When they have two smoke units, like the triplex, it'll fill up your train room with smoke in about 6 seconds. So I'm going to start this up, and I'm going to go turn on the air purifiers, so that hopefully we won't die of smoke inhalation down here. So let me zoom this in. There we go. And that's another area that MTH excels in over Lionel, is smoke units. MTH smoke units kick Lionel smoke units' butt. They're far superior. Someone's asking why I like Legacy Station so much. Because they're a local train store, and because I'm friends with the owners, and I've been going there for years. That's why. Hey guys, if you don't like what Lee is saying, just stop harassing him. If he says something inappropriate, I'll block him, but just leave him alone. I haven't seen anything he said that was inappropriate. Maybe it was further back in the chat, but if something comes up that is inappropriate that I see, then I'll block it, as needed. What? Well, just leave him alone, and if he says something else that's inappropriate, I will block him, but just,
backup?
Sure, what's next?
I'm headed to the line side phone to find out. They want us to bring a string of empty cars back downhill.
Hey, where are the conductor and brakeman?
Don't worry, Leroy. The crew will be waiting for us. Good. I see the caboose is already attached to the string of cars.
Hey, it looks like we need to get cold and water before heading back down.
All right, let's get that tank filled and get going.
Swing that spout over. Okay, that'll do it.
I don't think Lionel will make a Vision Line triplex. That would require new tooling.
Hey, remember, the caboose is already attached to the train. If you couple as hard as you normally do, you'll knock over the crew's coffee pot.
You just keep the steam up. I'll take care of the throttle.
All right, I warned you.
Just keep the steam up.
All right, we're going to bring the triplex in and then probably run one more thing real quick.
I'm gonna blow her down. Clear? Clear.
All right. Back this up and we'll see if we can put on a different train. If you want to donate money to the channel, I would suggest don't do it through YouTube. Do it through Patreon. I don't know how the YouTube donation works. I've never gotten a donation through YouTube, but I would imagine they probably take a big chunk of it. If you want to support the channel, the official way to do that is through Patreon, not through YouTube. But if you did donate money through YouTube, thank you. All right, so I'm going to switch this out for something else. And in keeping with the spirit of today, I think I'll do another MTH train. So let's see. Now, what I'm putting on right now is another one of my favorite MTH engines, and that, of course, is the DMIR Yellowstone. All right, I've got the Yellowstone on the track. And let's see if I can pull it up. DMIR Yellowstone, where is it? There it is.
Digger Steve, we got a schedule to keep. We may as well take on water. Sounds like a good idea. Swing that sail over. Okay, that'll do. I'll boil a while.
Doesn't look like we're going to have much downtime.
You're welcome,
Yard is
Crossed
full of
Anchors Railroads.
Put your belly aching and check the front pilot. 227 needs extra brakes down the hill with 104 loaded.
Uh-oh. Little derailment. Now we're flying. It weighs a lot. I was really flying there for a minute.
Clear.
All right. All right, so I think we're pretty close to calling it a day. Let me see if there's any questions that are coming up that I can answer, and then I do want to say that once this live broadcast is done, I'm going to download it and edit it, and then re-upload it, so that people who missed it can watch it, and I'll cut out any interruptions or pauses or anything like that. And you'll just be able to see the complete live show as it is. The tech that I'm using to do the live shows is always improving. We've got the multicam setup now. The next step I need to do is multi audio setups, which is coming soon. I was planning on having it today, but it didn't work right, so that'll have to be next time. And so it's always getting better, putting the cameras in different positions, and the audio stuff will come together, so it should be pretty nice. But that's that's all coming in the future. Always trying to keep up with the technology. And again, let me switch this back to me. So anyway, once again, if you'd like to get one of these green, these cool olive green t-shirts, they're now available on the online store at csxtrains.com/store. I've also got the black and blue t-shirts as well, but this is the new sort of drab olive green, which I kind of like. It's pretty cool. I'll tilt it down so you can see the logo. But yeah, these just came in, so lots of t-shirts on the store, and as soon as I get your order, I will try to ship it out as quickly as possible. Sometimes there's a few days delay depending on what I'm doing and where I'm at, but I will ship it out to you as quickly as I can. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show, and hopefully I was able to satisfy your need for me to say something about the whole MTH situation. You know, again, like I said earlier, all we can do is wait and see what happens, and we'll see. But I have a feeling that MTH is going to keep making trains to some extent into the future, and if they don't, hopefully somebody else will. But they're certainly going to keep going forward with the technology now, and so I don't see any reason why they wouldn't also put that technology into some new trains in the future. But we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, I think that's about it. The next video that I put out will be the review of this train right here, the Lionel pre-war inspired state set. That video, it's about 60% done right now, but the hard part's done. The part that's not done is mainly the running section of it, which is the easiest part to shoot. So that should be out soon, and then after that I'll be reviewing some Menard stuff and everything else. I have a pile of Menard stuff to review. The problem is I can't review it all one after another, or else people get upset about that. They start thinking that's all I do is review Menard stuff. So you kind of have to spread it out a little bit and to keep people happy. But that's the woes of having a YouTube channel, is keeping your viewers happy. But anyway, so we'll have, but that's it. I see people saying MTH, you'll be missed and all this stuff, but I wouldn't go that far yet. I would say, just wait and see what happens. See how the story develops. You know, it's kind of like when you turn on the news and they're reporting on something that just happened, and they start discussing it and commenting on it, and really there's no reason to do that, because it's new, it's developing, and it's better to just wait and see what happens. That's why I wanted to wait a week before I made this video in the first place. Was I didn't want to get on there the day of or 5 minutes after the announcement and start running my mouth about stuff. I wanted to wait and see what happened. You know, I've never seen the point when people put out a video 5 seconds after an announcement, just so they can be the first one on YouTube with that video, I guess. But I really don't see any logical purpose to it, because all you're doing at that point is just repeating what was said in the announcement, and anything else you're saying at that point is just pure speculation, and there's really no need for that. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, that's it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Eric Siegel, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your weekend, and have a good week, and stay safe.